let's just take a moment to give a big thank you to the huge conglomerate that is YouTube. Thank you, YouTube, for giving me undeserved copyright disputes. Thank you, YouTube, for blocking my videos worldwide and not giving me enough information as to why. Thank you for discouraging future content creators with your broken system specifically designed to be easily abused by anyone with anything. And I just want to take a moment to appreciate the fact that you are blocking the first episode of my Doctor Who review of Series 11, which I can only assume is blocked worldwide because of the copyright dispute you've automatically sensed. Which is strange because I've gotten the same automatic copyright dispute from the same company in another video that isn't blocked. Not to mention that every single clip I've used in my videos have never and will never fall within the copyright crime. Thank you, YouTube, for blocking my video. That's real appreciated. If the video had been left alone or, manually checked, I might have actually had people watch my video, be interested in what I had to say, make me gain a crowd of views which could be used to benefit both you and I. And by the time the BBC Studios responds to my dispute, in at least 30 days, the video would have been buried in complete obscurity, losing all the best potential views I could have gotten within the week, and maybe by the time the dispute is gone, the video will still be blocked. That is, if the reason the video is blocked worldwide isn't to do with the copyright dispute, because I have no clue what the reason the video's blocked actually is, because you won't tell me. It's not like I want to build up an audience for my channel or anything. Anyway, Doctor Who. Let's talk about it. I find this episode rather difficult to review. There's nothing here that really stands out. That's not to say all of it was bad, it was mostly just okay. That still means it was an improvement over the last episode, at least. Most of it has to do with the better pacing. Everything flows much more smoothly here than in the last episode. The Doctor has one location to reach, so there isn't all that back and forth from before. Overall, the characters had the same problem as before, where they wouldn't say anything another character wouldn't say. That isn't without the episode trying, though. We learn a bit more about Yaz. We learn that she has a father and a sister. Yeah, that's kinda it. Yasmin did not add anything to this episode. She contributed very little and you'd probably forget she was even there. When it came to the companions, the main focus was on the interactions between Ryan and Graham. Seems like they're trying to set up something for more future episodes with them. Something this episode does, which I'll talk about in a minute. 3 new characters show up in this episode, but only Angstrom and Epso are worth talking about. They're both aliens, apparently. They're the worst aliens ever. They look like humans. They're basically 2 alien people competing in an intergalactic race of sorts, which the Doctor and gang get caught up in. They both have a couple scenes where you learn what kind of person... Alien person they are, trying to make the audience sympathise with them. Again, it isn't bad, but there's nothing here that's going to make you get really involved with these guys. They are better than the Doctor's companions, technically. They play off each other in more interesting ways than the companions ever have so far, so I guess there's that going for them. By the end of the episode they vanish, but I have a feeling we'll be seeing them in the future because... well, again, I'll get into that in a minute. It's worth mentioning that there is one point where the Doctor and gang are pinned down by a number of barely functioning enemy sniper robots. Ryan decides to fight back by picking up a downed robot's weapon. The Doctor, of course, resents this, as she believes fighting with bullets will never yield the best outcome. Ryan rushes out, stuns a few robots, fails, comes back to the gang and gets scolded by the Doctor, who quickly finds another method to solve their problem. First of all, I appreciate the fact that they finally got a companion to take initiative for once. This is finally something I can see Ryan thinking of that no one else would have, and I totally get the message they're trying to send. But this scene is right messy. Doctor, I get that you don't like guns, but think of the situation you're in. You're being shot at by robots, not humans mind you, programmed to shoot you on sight. What harm would it do to use their weapons against them? They do stun them long enough for you to get through them all. Do you consider robots as sentient beings, or do you just see them as machines? I'm sure using a gun against a machine isn't as bad as using it against a sentient being. And sure, you did find something that yielded a better result, but you can't rule out one option just because you don't like it, especially in a life or death situation. Sorry, Doctor, but for this specific situation, I'm with Ryan on this one. What were you doing when Ryan ran out there shooting down all these robots? I bet you were just staring at him with a frown on your face. You were lucky as hell to find that electromagnetic pulse while you were being shot at. I just find it rather immature when anyone says guns are always bad. 100% of the time, never use a gun. Always use your mind instead. It will always be better. There's a lot of factors that go into this sort of thing, so you have to be careful with what you say. Your mind is powerful, yes, but guns should never be ruled out altogether because of it. This was probably the worst scene in the episode. I felt like it was worth mentioning. Once again, I get the message and can agree with it to an extent, but I'd rather something like this be dealt with much more tact.
Time to stop messing about.
What are you doing?
Fighting back.
No. Guns, never use them.
Kind of a shame too. The one scene where I finally see a character do something somewhat useful, he's scolded by the Doctor for doing it. I understand I'm spending a lot of time talking about the characters more than anything else in the series so far. I'm only doing that because the characters are the most important thing in, well, any form of fictional entertainment. I'm sure there are a few exceptions, but I'd say 99% of all stories involve characters of some sort. So far, these characters have not impressed me. There have been few moments where the Doctor has really relied on them. The only moments I can think of is when the Doctor needs assistance with equipment. Other than that, she's perfectly fine doing things on her own. Speaking of the Doctor, I'm beginning to notice something. I don't think there's ever been a more curious and light-hearted Doctor than this one.
Big locked door. I love a big locked door. Ominous.
I suppose it makes sense, maybe. Women tend to be more gentle, let's say, than men tend to be. She is better in this episode than she was in the last one, at least. She's throwing out a lot less jokes and her personality is something more comprehensible this time around, for me. I particularly like the scene where she argues with Epsiode as they're about to crash land. It's a good way to set up the story and get you excited. Not to mention I was actually buying Whittaker's performance for the first time here. Maybe it's just me getting used to her by this point, but I found her a lot less awkward in this episode. Oh man, the location sucked in this episode. The Doctor and gang were travelling through a barren wasteland throughout most of the episode. Of all of space and time, this is the most boring place you could end up. An entire planet with nothing. Not even the basic looking structures and ruins make this place interesting. One thing that really peeves me off is that they never actually show the planet in space. The first 5 or so minutes are spent in space looking for a planet that seems to have disappeared, and when they finally find it, they never show it. Not once, not a single shot of the planet. This actually matters. They're trying to sell you on this location. They delve into why this planet went into a state of pure desolateness as if the audience is interested in it. But why on earth would anyone be interested in a barren planet that you don't even see? Not even when the Doctor and her companions are travelling on it, do you really feel like they're walking on a dead planet. There's nothing there. The least they could have done is give us a shot of how huge this desert planet truly is. Like the view from the top of a mountain or something. But you never get a sense of scale with any of this. Every shot is zoomed in and reserved, even on the wide shots. The villains, if you even count them as villains, are fabric. How terrifying. The fabric seems to be played off as a big thing at one point. I don't think it matters right now, but I guess they're set up for something later down the road. Which I suppose I'll get into right now. In the middle of the episode, the Doctor and gang are trapped underground at night from the haunting fabric. The Doctor finds some alien text on the floor that explains everything. Basically, the scientists of this planet were forced into developing weaponry for the Stenza, the alien race Tim Shaw was in the previous episode. Due to this, the weaponry developed scorched the entire planet, leaving it in a state of complete waste. I'll admit that when I first saw this scene, I was surprised that the Stenza were mentioned. It implies they have much bigger plans with them, which is good because I rather liked Tim Shaw. I can only hope that if they do show up again, that they all won't be the same generic brute Tim Shaw was. After viewing the episode for a second time, you start to notice there's a lot of setup for future events. There's Ryan and Graham coming to terms with their relationship. There's Armstrong and Epsiode potentially returning later. There's the stanza that was mentioned earlier, and there's the fabric getting into the Doctor's head. Nothing that was set up had a proper conclusion, and if it did, it was an incredibly abrupt conclusion. It's difficult to tell right now if the things they've set up are going to matter. It all depends on how well this episode ages that I can properly make a final judgment on this episode, because on its own, it's another poor episode. Not as poor as the first one, but not enough to make it stand out. I think that's why it's been so difficult to review this episode. I spent a lot of the review on the characters, and for good reason. This episode is more focused on the setup than it is the conclusions. I don't know if we'll ever see this planet again. I don't know if Angstrom and Epsiode will return, and I don't know if what the fabric did to the Doctor really matters. All I can do is wait and see what happens next. That's pretty much the gist of it. The only thing left to talk about is the TARDIS. The Doctor finally finds her TARDIS at the end of the episode after being stranded on the planet with her companions. It's probably the second most intimate moment with the TARDIS since the TARDIS became human. We, of course, get a new design to look at. It's okay. I'm not too sure what it was going for. It mostly resembles Eccleston and Tennant's TARDIS more than any other one. It's pretty much that, except darker and bulky. I'm not a fan of the crystals. I feel like it covers up a lot of the scenery. It's not something I'm going to lose sleep over though. Besides, the custard cream dispenser is probably the one greatest thing that's ever been installed in the TARDIS, so what even are flaws when there's a custard cream dispenser? Nothing else. Again, this episode isn't the worst thing ever. I'm only being hard on this show because it needs it, and it's more than capable of delivering better. I said this episode was an improvement over the last one, but not by much. We'll see how this episode fares when what's set up actually happens. Bingo time! We have 3 actors to fill out in our bingo chart. That's more than I expected so early on. We got Susan Lynch and Sean Dooley as major roles, and we got Art Malik as a minor role. Let's bop them on. Oof, wonderful. At this rate we'll be getting a bingo in no time. Alright, that's enough for today. I'll see you next week. That is, if YouTube doesn't block my video again. Anyway, goodbye for now, and take care. I hate this cold so much.